Imagine just gliding past all that traffic, totally silent, emission-free. That's kind of the dream with electric two-wheelers, right? And today on the deep dive, we're going to cut through the hype, look at the numbers, and give you a really clear picture of what it actually means to own one of these things in 2025. We're digging into the pros, the cons, the trends, all based on the sources you shared. Our whole mission here is just to boil down, give you the key insights you need to understand this space. It's moving fast.
It really is. And it's fascinating how central this topic has become, not just for your typical city commuter, but really for anyone interested in where tech is going. We'll explore that balance, the real convenience versus some of the hurdles that still exist.
Okay, so let's start with the good stuff, the advantages. What immediately jumped out from the sources, and it's a big one, is the environmental angle. I mean, zero tailpipe emissions. That's a direct hit against city air pollution. And it's important, too, that the overall carbon footprint gets even smaller if you're charging them with renewables. That's a pretty powerful thing for our cities, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. And thinking beyond just the environment, there's also quite strong government backing pushing this change. We see things like subsidies, FEME 2 in India is a good example. That's the government scheme there, or tax credits like in the U.S. Plus, you often get lower road tax, cheaper registration, sometimes even free or discounted charging. Yep. It's all part of this wider global push for greener transport.
Yeah, those incentives are key because they really boost another major plus, the money side of things. Our sources are highlighting a huge shift here, like potentially cutting your commute fuel costs by maybe 80, even 90%. Electricity is just so much cheaper per kilometer than petrol. And it's not just fuel. Think about maintenance. It's drastically less. No oil changes, no clutch issues, no spark plugs. That changes the ownership cost fundamentally.
It really does simplify things.
But it's not just about saving money or being green. It's also the experience of riding them. What came up again and again in the sources, and honestly what I find really appealing, is that smooth, instant acceleration you get, that torque from the electric motor, and the quietness.
Yes.
The sources stress how much that contributes to, well, quieter cities, more pleasant places to be, no more yelling over engine noise at a stoplight.
Exactly. That quietness really does change the urban environment. And beyond the ride itself, it's the smart aspect of these machines now. The data points to all sorts of features: app connectivity, GPS tracking for security, anti-theft systems, even regenerative braking to get a bit of energy back. Plus, getting all those ride stats and battery info on your phone, it makes it feel like a really modern connected device, much more intuitive.
Right. And to sort of wrap up the advantages, their design just fits city life so well. They're compact, light, super easy to park, forget circling the block, looking for a spot, and just great for weaving through traffic. The research suggests they're perfect for those shorter to medium trips, maybe 40 to 120 kilometers on a charge for many models.
Yeah.
For daily city stuff, they're just very efficient.
Yeah, for that use case, they really shine.
Okay, so the pros are definitely compelling. But as we dug into the sources, it's clear it's not all smooth sailing. There are some real challenges. And maybe here's where it gets really interesting. The big one seems to be range anxiety. Reports suggest those entry-level scooters might only give you 50, maybe 70 kilometers. That's just not going to work for everyone, especially outside cities or if you have a long commute. And that anxiety gets worse because the charging infrastructure isn't always reliable yet. How much of a practical problem is that, would you say?
Oh, it's still a very significant factor for many people. The listed range might be okay on paper, but the worry is, will I actually find a working charger when I need one? And then, even if you do, there's the time it takes.
All right. Charging time?
Exactly. A standard charger at home might take, 3 to 6 hours for a full charge. Fast chargers exist, sure, but there aren't that many yet. And a real frustration is they're not standardized. Your scooter might not work with every fast charger you find. That lack of convenience is a hurdle.
That's a really practical point. And then there's something maybe less talked about, but crucial long-term.
The battery itself wearing out, battery degradation. These lithium-ion batteries, they're great, but they typically degrade noticeably after, say, 3 to 5 years. And replacing them, the sources mentioned costs anywhere from roughly $20,000 to $50,000 or even more. That's a huge chunk of the vehicle's original price.
It absolutely is. That potential future cost really changes the long-term value equation. And something else to factor in. Performance can really dip in extreme weather, especially the cold. That affects usability depending on where you live.
That's a good point about the weather impact. So you've got that potential long-term cost, But even up front, despite the subsidies we mentioned,
Yeah.
the initial price is higher.
Generally, yes.
Electric models usually cost more to buy than similar petrol scooters. Premium ones, the Ather 450X, Ola S1 Pro, they can be 1.3 to 1.8 lakhs. That's a decent investment. It is. And that investment feels a bit riskier sometimes because of another issue. The service network is still developing. After-sale support isn't as widespread or established as it is for petrol vehicles.
Hmm.
Finding a local mechanic who's trained for electric drivetrains or battery issues can be tough.
Right, which can be a worry if things go wrong. And that connects directly to the resale market, which the sources say is, well, unstable.
Yeah, that's fair.
It seems harder to sell them used, and you might not get as much back. Part of that is uncertainty about the battery's health when buying used.
Exactly. Plus, the technology is improving so fast that older models seem outdated quickly, and brand loyalty isn't as entrenched as with some petrol scooter brands.
So if you plan to upgrade or sell it later, that lower resale value is definitely something to keep in mind.
For sure.
Okay, so bringing all this together,
Hmm.
what does it mean for you, the listener? Who is the ideal buyer right now, based on what we're seeing?
Well, the sources clearly point towards someone commuting in a city, probably doing, say, 20 to 50 kilometers a day. It's also a great fit if you're really focused on being eco-friendly. And definitely a strong option for students or delivery riders who need super low running costs for daily travel.
Yeah, makes sense. And conversely, who should maybe hold off for now?
The sources suggest it's probably less suitable if you consistently ride long distances beyond that typical range, or if you live somewhere rural without good charging options nearby. And critically, if you don't have a convenient place to charge at home, or maybe secure overnight parking, those limitations can really outweigh the benefits for some users.
Okay, that clarifies the who. And just quickly, to give a sense of the market in 2025, any standout brands mentioned?
Yeah, the sources name quite a few. In India, you hear about Ola Electric, Ather Energy, the TVS iQube, Bajaj Chetak, Hero Vito, some big names. Globally, brands like NIU, Gogoro, Super Soco are prominent.
Hmm.
You see models like the Yamaha E01 in Europe or the Honda EM1 finding their place too.
Good overview. So if we were to summarize this whole deep dive, electric two-wheelers are definitely clean, they're cheap to run, and getting smarter all the time. Really well suited for city commutes and for people wanting a greener lifestyle.
Absolutely. But it's crucial to remember those main hurdles are still there. Range limitations for some, the time it takes to charge, and the long-term battery costs and replacement. Understanding those trade-offs is key, right? Knowledge is most useful when you can actually apply it to your own situation.
Couldn't agree more. The journey for these vehicles is definitely underway, though. Battery tech keeps getting better, charging networks are expanding. The future for electric mobility looks really, really bright. So knowing all this, maybe the question to leave you with is, what stands out to you? What do you see as the biggest game changer or maybe the biggest remaining obstacle? And how might that influence your own transport choices down the road?